All right, let's jump right in. We're doing a deep dive today, looking at source material you shared. And honestly, this story sounds completely wild.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a true story, apparently, about bureaucratic failure just going off the charts. Urban planning absurdity at its finest.
That's exactly it. So our job here is to unpack the research, the notes you sent over, figure out what actually happened, because this isn't, some big disaster movie scenario.
No explosions, no floods.
Yeah. The source calls it a long-running, passive-aggressive, and truly hilarious urban planning calamity. That description alone is amazing.
It really is. They also call it a monument to bureaucratic absurdity and human inertia. And the topic. Okay, get ready for this one. The Great San Francisco Sidewalk Escalator to Nowhere.
Chuckles slightly. It sounds like a joke title, but it's real. And the source, they rated this whole mess solid 15 out of 10 on their, quote, Derp scale.
15 out of 10. Okay, that's quite a rating. So we really need to figure out how something this out there could even happen, let alone stick around.
Exactly. Where do we start?
Okay, let's set the scene. We need to go back. Think 1970s San Francisco. The city had a perfectly sensible goal, right? Improve pedestrian access.
Yeah, standard city planning stuff.
They wanted people to get more easily from downtown to the Embarcadero waterfront area. It was being redeveloped. Big project.
Makes sense. Connect the dots. So they planned, walkways, things like that.
Exactly. A network of walkways and, this is key, public escalators. Just to make it easier, more convenient for people walking around.
Okay. Seems logical enough so far.
And the focus of this particular story, the one that got the 1510 rating, is just one specific escalator, planned for, a prime spot.
Okay.
It's designed to go from street level up to an elevated pedestrian bridge. Simple connection.
Right. A bridge that would presumably link into this bigger waterfront access system, standard infrastructure.
Should have been, on paper, yeah, totally logical. A key piece of the puzzle.
Uh-huh. So what went wrong? This is where the Dirk factor comes in, I assume.
This is where it goes completely off the rails. The escalator, it was built. And your source makes a point of saying, it wasn't just a frame sitting there.
Oh.
No, it was a substantial piece of machinery, powered and ready. It worked. Lights on, steps moving, the whole deal.
Okay, so the escalator's there. It's running. What's the problem?
The problem, and this is the absolute kicker, the reason for that legendary rating.
Yeah.
The pedestrian bridge, the thing it was built to connect to.
Yeah.
It was never built. Doesn't there.
Wait, never? At all?
Nope, never happened.
Yeah.
So you have this fully functional escalator rising, as the source puts it, majestically from the sidewalk.
Up to what? Thin air.
Not even thin air. According to the source, it went up to a wall, a dead end.
Yeah.
Just concrete.
Yeah, wall. You're kidding me.
Not kidding. You'd ride this thing up expecting, to walk onto a bridge.
And bam, wall.
Exactly. You hit a solid wall. Can you imagine the confusion?
Oh, totally. So what did people do? Just stand there?
Well, the source highlights the pure awkwardness. You'd get to the top, realize you'd been had, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to awkwardly turn around to descend right back down the way you came. Or, try and find some stairs, defeating the whole point.
Wow. That's the definition of the Dirk factor right there. Planning fail of epic proportions, creating actual physical comedy.
And crucially, this wasn't fixed quickly. Right? This wasn't an oops, forgot the bridge, be right back situation.
Not even close. That's what makes this whole thing almost sublime in its failure. It's stuck around. The source talks about a bureaucratic standoff.
A standoff over an escalator and a missing bridge. Between who?
Well, it sounds like the city department's involved, the ones responsible for the escalator part and the ones responsible for the bridge part.
Yeah.
They were apparently at loggerheads.
Yeah.
Or maybe just, suffering from incredible inertia, nobody wanted to touch it.
So nobody would take responsibility.
Yeah.
Either for actually building the bridge or for saying, okay, this is dumb, let's tear the escalator down.
Seems like it. Just paralysis. And because it was right there, out in the open.
Everyone could see it.
Everyone. It became this running civic joke, a literal physical symbol of government. Well, inefficiency. You couldn't miss it.
That's the public spectacle angle the source mentions, right?
Yeah.
It became a bizarre tourist attraction. Seriously.
Apparently so. People would deliberately go there to see the escalator to nowhere.
No way.
Yes. They'd ride it up to the wall and ride it back down, just shaking their heads. It wasn't just locals laughing. Tourists were in on the joke, too. A must-see piece of urban absurdity.
That is just peak San Francisco, maybe. I don't know. It's incredible.
Yeah.
And this spectacle, this monument to messing up.
Yeah.
It wasn't just there for a little while.
No. This is the protracted calamity part. Get this.
Yeah.
The source says this ridiculous situation persisted for decades. Decades.
Decades. Plural. How many?
Well over 20 years, possibly closer to 30.
30 years. Are you serious? 30 years of an escalator going to a wall.
That's what the source material indicates. And it wasn't like it was broken down or forgotten. No, it was fully operational.
Still running.
Still running, still transporting, quote, bewildered citizens up to a solid wall. And get this, it was regularly maintained, cleaned, and kept running.
They were maintaining a useless escalator.
Paying people to maintain it. For decades, it served absolutely no functional purpose whatsoever, except being this shining testament to urban planning gone utterly awry. The sheer commitment to the pointlessness is mind-boggling and, yeah, pretty funny.
Utterly baffling.
Yeah.
So after all that time, how did this epic journey to a wall finally end? Did it just collapse from exhaustion?
It chuckles. No, nothing that dramatic. After, decades of being laughed at, finally. The source says sometime in the late 1990s or early 2000s,
Yeah.
the escalator was quietly dismantled.
Quietly. No big party.
Yeah.
No end of an era ceremony.
Doesn't sound like it. Just poof, gone. Apparently, the space was eventually redeveloped, used for different pedestrian access. The right way, presumably.
Wow. So looking back, that 15 out of 10 Derp score,
Yeah.
it feels completely justified now.
Oh, absolutely. The source lays out the reasons, and they track, first, human stupidity, just a massive failure in basic planning and coordination.
Check. Someone definitely dropped the ball. Big time.
Then, absurdly funny. I mean, come on. Riding an escalator straight into a wall, that's pure physical comedy on a grand scale, as they put it. It's just inherently ridiculous.
You really can't make this stuff up. It's objectively funny.
And a key point. No deaths. Right. This wasn't a tragedy. It was just endless inconvenience and head shaking. Nobody got hurt, which lets us appreciate the pure absurdity.
Yeah, that's important. It's just harmless bureaucratic comedy in a way. Expensive comedy, but still.
Exactly. And finally, the protracted calamity.
Yeah.
Like we said, it wasn't a quick mistake. It was this slow motion, publicly visible, and truly baffling waste of resources that just dragged on and on.
Decades of Derp, indeed. It ticks every single box for maximum absurdity. So, okay, for you listening, why dredge up this bizarre tale from, decades ago? Why should you care about some random useless escalator?
Well, because it's just such a fascinating and, yeah, hilarious example of how things can go wrong. Even simple plans. It shows how, failures in coordination or just plain inertia can lead to these spectacular screw-ups.
And how long they can last.
Exactly. How visible inefficiency, something obviously broken, can just
Yeah.
persist for an unbelievably long time right out in the open.
Yeah, the source nails it. Human stupidity leading to hilarious, pointless chaos. Which, if you think about it, it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does. How many other escalators to nowhere are out there right now? Maybe not literally escalators hitting walls.
Right. Maybe less obvious things.
Yeah, less physically comedic maybe, but just as pointless, just as expensive. Projects started and forgotten, bureaucratic knots nobody can untie. They're probably all around us.
And what does it actually take? What's the tipping point for something that's so clearly ridiculous, so obviously not working, to finally get addressed after potentially decades of just sitting there, wasting time and money?
That's the question, isn't it? Definitely something for you to think about next time you see something out there in the world that just makes you stop and go, wait, what? How did that happen? And why is it still like that?